Shootout. Time to find out who's the best. It's me.
Hey folks, and thanks for joining me on episode 2 of the MIDI Machine. We're here today to look at the 6 English-speaking male voices that are available for Synthesizer-V. Before we get into it, I just want to go over a couple of things. Number one, I didn't get as far as I hoped with doing samples of each of the genres, which is one of the things I wanted to look at in today's episode. So that'll come in part 2, probably not till towards the end of March, because that's going to be a fair bit of work to get songs in all the genres that I picked, which I think was 10 or 11, something like that, and then get samples of each of the voices. So we're not going to do that today. We do have a few samples and a couple of other things that, other attributes that we're going to look at that that might help you determine which voice is best for your production. I also wanted to say at this point that the reason for the delay in getting to the next part, those sample songs, is that February is RPM month, and RPM is a movement that's been around since I believe 2006, something like that. And so RPM challenge is a music. Well, actually, it's not just music. You can do spoken word, you can do experimental noise, whatever you want. It's basically to make an audio product in the month of February. Like I say, it's been going on for years, and this is the second one I'm doing. And it's quite a lot of work to do. You can choose to do either a single song, like an EP kind of size thing, or a full album, or even a box set, which would be quite a challenge to do in a month. But anyway, it's up there. So what you do is basically you arrange for the hosting of your audio files, and they have some suggestions there on who to use. Some free hosts that are good. I use Alonetone. I think the audio quality is a lot better than SoundCloud. Anyway, there's a couple of alternatives there. They have a great FAQ on their website that you can look at to get the rules and that kind of stuff. But if you're interested in writing songs and that, this is a great challenge for you. There's really no pressure there. No pressure in terms of output quality. It's not expected to be, perfection or anything like that. And if you don't finish your goal, there's no, there's no comeback on it or anything. It's a no lose thing. And it's a great way to motivate yourself to do a product in the month of February. So that's RPM. That's going to happen in February. But for today, we're going to look at these voices, male voices for Synthesizer-V. Now, there's 6 of these voices at the moment. There's Kevin, which is by Dreamtonics. That was the first English-speaking male voice to come out for Synthesizer-V. Followed by Asterion, which is by Eclipsed Sounds. 9-0, Richie and Hayden by Dreamtonics, and Saros by Eclipse Sounds. So we're going to look at a few different attributes of each of them that might help you determine which one's the best for your project. We're going to look at their vocal range, the available vocal modes, which is a way to kind of add expression throughout your song, any undesirable traits that they may have, and we'll finally look at suitable genres for each of the voices. And it's that suitable genres part that's not quite finished. So we'll get into that in part 2, but we will touch on it at the end of this. And if you sat through episode 1 of this, first of all, apologies for it being so long. Congratulations for getting through it, and I hope you've recovered. The idea of today will be to do this in a much briefer format, hopefully. So we'll see how that goes. Let's get started on this by taking a look at the pitch range of these voices. So as you can see from this graphic, the vocal range of these singers is pretty similar within just a couple of notes either way. Now, I will say that when I worked out the vocal range for these, and I'll tell you the methodology in a moment, but when I worked it out, it is pretty conservative. I would likely go beyond this range, certainly at the high end for all of these singers, and probably at the low end for Asterion, who has that super deep voice. If you're not familiar with any of these voices, I would recommend you go to the Dreamtonic's website, where they have samples of all the voices except for Saros. Saros is new one by Eclipse Sounds. It seems that they have some delay in putting Eclipse voices on Dreamtonic's website. I assume that's kind of a licensing thing between those two companies. So go to Eclipse Sounds. Leave all the links down in the description below, and go and see. They've all got samples, audio samples of their voices. So if you're not familiar with them, you go and see them. Okay, so the methodology for doing this. Let's bring up Synthesizer-V a moment. Okay, so the methodology I used for determining the pitch range had 3 elements to it. The first one was actual pitch centering. So right at the low end of the range, it's easy to see this. And using Kevin as an example, but I did this for all of them. You can see that like right down low, say E2, you can see that Kevin's pretty sharp there, and he's also going up the range. He stays pretty sharp, and then he kind of levels off sort of around here. So for the first element, I would assess where the pitch starts centering itself. So I would say for Kevin, for instance, it's around about B2, and we move on to part 2. Part 2 is the kind of the full body sound from the voice, and I use a kind of basic no vocal modes selected way of determining that. And it's kind of, if you can have a look down the low end, you can see that this is kind of a low amplitude kind of waveform, and that kind of indicates that there's not a ton of body to the sound here. So these would be unsuitable. They're unsuitable anyway because of the pitch centering. So we start where we're at the pitch centering, and we look at the thickness of these waveforms and determine there, like roughly where we might consider that voice comes into play. And again, I would say it's in roughly the same place, around about B2. Okay, and you can see A2 is kind of a lot smaller than B2. It gets bigger again at kind of, where were we there? E flat. But I think you'll find that there's virtually no difference here. The third element, which you don't see on the screen here, is an audio one. And basically at the low end, like once you go beyond the range of the voice, you hear some audio artifacts. Kind of the voice gets very scratchy. You find this at the low end and the high end. And we're just going to listen to Kevin here so that you can hear how it sounds. So we're talking probably around about here as the start of his range, B2 or around about C2 or C3, something like that. But let's have a listen to this.
La 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 la.
Yeah, okay, so I'm happy with B2. So let's just see what we actually picked for Kevin. So we said A2. Okay, so that's not far off. So we said down A2. Yeah, I can see that, like the it's perhaps not quite centered on the pitch there, so B2 might be a better option, but thereabouts. Okay, so I went through all the voices this way and came up with the pitch range using the same kind of thing. And I did the same at the top. Now, at the top of the range, in every case here for the top of the range, the voice remains strong throughout, all the way up, up past C5, which is very, very high for a male voice. The pitch stayed centered and the amplitude was fine. It was basically the audio, that scratchiness that came into the audio there that kind of topped all the voices out. And maybe, in a future update, we'll see kind of more range being added as the quality improves up there. So you can see that, like most of them are around about G4 to B4 is where I topped them out. Now, if I wanted to use one beyond that, I probably would, and I'd find out a way to clean up the audio. Sometimes the artifacts are very slight, sometimes they're a bit more apparent. I'm just going to play you now the Kevin again, like right up at the top of his range there, and you can hear where it tops out. So we said he went up to A4. Let's just have a look, see if we agree with that.
La 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 la.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. So, the artifacts start coming in around about there.
La 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 la.
And they are much less apparent than they are at the bottom of the range. So, like I said, you may well decide that it's a good idea to go past those limits. But those limits are what I determined, and like I said, they're all really, really similar. So I think from that perspective, vocal range is probably not an issue in determining which voice you would want to use. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is vocal modes. And here there's a definite difference between vocal modes of Dreamtonic's products versus Eclipsed. Dreamtonic seems to put out 3 to 4 vocal modes for each voice, and Eclipsed, who have Asterion and Saros, 9 and 10 respectively there. Now, I will say that, firstly, I don't put a ton of weight into the number of vocal modes to determine how many variations of voice you can get out of a particular data set. They all have the same parameters, which are these things down here, loudness, tension, breathiness, gender, and tone shift, which can also make a big difference to the sound. But the vocal modes do make a difference, don't get me wrong, and they all give like a slightly different attitude. They may increase the range at either end, top or bottom, and you can combine them to get various combinations of variety in the expressiveness and the basically just the vocal delivery of the voice. But like I say, I don't put a ton of weight into them. And let's go back to that graphic. I think that certainly some of them could be removed, particularly in the eclipsed ones. I think that they're overdoing it a little bit, maybe as a sales point, I don't know really. But I think they could reduce it without affecting the effectiveness of the the vocal variety for that voice. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is undesirable traits. This is kind of a tricky one to deal with, I think, and is probably more applicable to backing vocals than it is to lead. I think with lead vocals, the voice is the voice. It has a lot of personality, and whatever that personality is fine. As long as the voice kind of fits the genre or the, more specifically the song, then I think you're good to go. With backing vocals, we tend to think that backing vocals should blend a little better at the very least with each other. Backing singers blend with each other, but also blend underneath the lead vocal so that they don't take over the spotlight there. And in this respect, there are two voices with regional accents that are quite strong. That's 90, who's Australian. Sorry to Australians, I have no idea what region 90 is from. And Richie, and apologies to Americans, I have no idea what region he's from. But it's kind of Richie has kind of a Boston, New York, New Jersey kind of accent going, I think. So they might be determining factors of deciding not to use them for backing singers. Now they're both kind of niche cases anyway. 90 is kind of a heavy metal singer. Richie was designed as a rapper, so they may not be something you'd go to anyway. Of the others, there are no others that have regional accents as such, but there are some other undesirable traits for certainly for backing singers. Kevin has very distinct and strong diction. He's a very good singer, don't get me wrong, but his delivery is very deliberate, and it can be a little bit strong. It's hard to make him not sound square, and that can have an effect on backing vocals in particular. With regard to lead vocals, it can be a strength if you think of can't think of his name now, but the guy who sung lead vocals for B-52s. Very square voice, very very distinct, and Kevin's kind of a little bit like that. So he would work for certain genres as a lead vocalist, but it's kind of hard to fit in there as a backing singer unless you're doing kind of choral, legit choral stuff. His voice may be the best for that. The other voices, they would certainly blend well. Hayden and Saros definitely blend extremely well. Asterion maybe less well, kind of sticks out a little bit, but not in the same kind of way. There's no kind of undesirable traits from Asterion there as a backing singer or a lead singer for that matter. So that kind of covers that one. So certainly as a backing singer I would choose Hayden or Saros first and Asterion if I wanted something low, and I would probably avoid the others for backing singers. As lead singers, again, like lead singers have their own personality, and I think any of these would work perfectly well within the genres that they work. And that's the last part of this that I wanted to cover, and perhaps the part that unfortunately we're not going to get to cover in as much detail, certainly in this episode, as I would like. Here is my chart for this, and we can go through a couple of examples here that may be a little bit surprising. So you can see that, like at the left-hand side is where the singer is strong, and then we kind of go into kind of edge use case scenarios there as we go further to the right and kind of start fading out there. So if we start with ballads, I think Hayden and Saros are kind of fairly obvious choices. I'm going to play you something by Hayden in a moment. This is Dreaming of Tomorrow, and this is something I wrote in absolute record time here. And this is a nice ballad featuring Hayden.
Together we stand to make it right. Dreaming of tomorrow, the future looks bright. Think of a world where hands hold tight, no differences divide. Where love rules day unnatural.
And apologies for the abrupt ending there. I did this super quick video exporting from DaVinci, and for some reason it kind of didn't include the fades as I thought it was going to. But I didn't really want to go and do it again. So anyway, they're not quite up to scratch, any of these as samples, but we'll deal with it. Okay, so back to our genres. So the possible first kind of red flag here is 9/0 was my third choice for a ballad. And you know what I was thinking of there, I, I was kind of using 9/0 as an example of somebody who wouldn't be no good for a ballad, and I thought, well, maybe he would, and I got to think of Billy Bragg did a version of what I believe is a Beatles tune, "She's Leaving Home," and that's a ballad. Billy Bragg has a very rough voice, but it's just a wonderful ballad, and he does a great job of it. I urge you to go listen to that if you're not familiar with it. Once again, it's "She's Leaving Home," and it's by Billy Bragg, and I'll leave a link in the description below. So that's what I was thinking there, and I've got two examples. One of kind of more of a power ballad, and one of just a regular ballad. So the first one I'm going to play you there. This is 9/0 doing something that I started writing for Natalie. I still haven't finished it. I must get and do that sometime. But this is I Grew Up, and this is 9/0 singing it.
You came into my world, and then I found out what life could really be. You helped me turn that life around, so free.
Okay, so hopefully you'll agree that works, Here's the power ballad that I was referring to there. So this is another one. This isn't really a song. I just kind of started noodling around and came up with this. But this is more of a power ballad, again using 9/0.
When you care, just do it on your own.
Okay, so hopefully you'll agree there that 9/0 isn't a bad choice for a ballad. The next genre that we move on to is the blues. This is a genre that I feel has changed a lot over the years, and I think for traditional blues I'd probably choose 9/0 first, in actual fact. But for a more modern style of blues I'd probably go for Hayden, and then Ritchie, and then 9/0, and then Asterion possibly for the traditional black man singing the blues. Asterion is kind of, because of his really strong vibrato, would be a little bit difficult to mold into the blues, but it's definitely possible. So in terms of Hayden, we often think of Hayden as having this like super soft kind of Justin Bieber-y sound, but you can kind of crank him up a little bit. I don't have an example of that, unfortunately, at this point, but believe me when I tell you that I think, you know, Hayden in terms of modern blues, I think it would be a good choice. Richie, his accent's a little bit out there for it, but again, he has this kind of gruffness about his voice that would suit the blues pretty well. Okay, so the next genre I've chosen is kind of country pop and folk. You might think that that's kind of a bit of a weird combination, and yeah, sure. I mean, they're not exactly the same, are they? Um, I would say in terms of country, straight country, none of the singers are really particularly good at that, and it's kind of more the southern accent, the drawl. You know, none of them really have the way to do country. And if you know of a great country song done by one of these singers, let me know in the comments, and I'll be happy to give an update or whatever. In terms of folk, though, I think 90 is pretty good. He has that kind of roughness to his voice, and I would then, I think, choose Hayden as second. I'm going to play some 90 again, and 90 seems to be dominating this, but this is an example of what I would call kind of folk. It's a very rough production, a song that I'm kind of working on, that one of my neighbors wrote actually. And here's an example of 90 singing Sunny Sunday Morning.
How long is it gonna take before we can take a break? Is it too late to change my stake? But the weeks and the years, they disappear behind us, just like...
Okay, so apologies for the kind of slightly rough production quality there, but hopefully you get an idea of 90 doing that genre. So we'll move on there. As to why I chose Hayden, again, you can kind of mold his voice to it. Same with Richie. Richie, particularly with folk, is okay. Country pop, maybe his accent's a little bit too much for it. So the next one is dance and electronic. I don't have any samples for this, and I'm going off kind of a gut feeling really more than anything. That Saros and Hayden would be the best choices for this, with possibly Kevin in third place and then Richie. And I don't think Asterion or 90 would be suitable for this genre at all. Now I say that, you know, in electronic music we often use kind of sampled vocals anyway, and really anything goes. But I'm just thinking of the kind of genres or subgenres of dance and electronica that would use like vocals in the kind of way that we would want to use Synthesizer-V with. And I think Saros and Hayden would be your best choice there. Certainly on the more kind of disco dance kind of side of things. And so we go into disco and funk, and Saros is the clear winner here, I think, personally. I'm going to play you an excerpt from a song I wrote for Saros called Dance, again not finished. But this is a good sample of why Saros's voice is great for this kind of song. And I'm just going to play you this sample.
Alonetone. There's a groove in the streets and it's calling your name. Feel the bass in your soul. Music like my flame. Dance to the beat of the night. Four on the floor, everything's alright. The melody guides us down the road.
Hopefully you'll agree with me on that one, on the disco and funk. Hayden, you can get into a similar kind of range as Saros, so again would be great choice for that. Would require a little bit more work than Saros. That song that you just heard, Dance, I basically did nothing to Saros's voice. They've got a great voice for that kind of genre. Asterion would do a great kind of high sort of falsetto black voice, I think, and Richie would be good, maybe not so good, but you know, possibly usable within that genre too. Again, his accent may be a bit of a turn off for it. So we go down to hip hop. I have no examples of that, but I'm going to go off the basis that Richie is was designed as a rap voice. Richie is based on a rapper, and who does rap and hip hop. So Richie is going to be your obvious choice there. Hayden can do it at a push, I think, and then Saros also at a bit of a push. Richie is going to be your least amount of work in that genre, I think, so you're probably your best choice there. So next, indie, alternative. I think Hayden, you know, has that typical voice, kind of Justin Bieberish, as I said before. Probably not the best way to describe it for the indie alternative scene, but certainly it fits very, very well into that genre. 9-0 can also fit into it in the kind of louder part of that genre, and Richie also, and then Kevin. Kevin perhaps an edge use case scenario. Richie less so, you know, like Richie more mainstream, certainly as a lead singer there, would be fine in that kind of genre. Moving on to jazz, this was perhaps the most surprising one to me, was that Kevin came out on top of that, and I'm thinking the kind of more kind of Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra-ish sort of time frame in terms of jazz. Asterion being the obvious black jazz singer, and I think I do have, yeah, I have a bit of an example of Asterion doing kind of a jazz ballad here, so let's just play that. And the lyrics for this one were written by a friend of mine from one of the forums, Tom Gibson.
And we dance, oh how we dance, like the fools we are, weightless, can't escape this, you're my dangerous pheromone.
Okay, so that's jazz. I don't have an example of Kevin doing that. I will do one up for it, but I definitely think Kevin would be absolutely great in that kind of Dean Martin role. Okay, so metal, no contest here. 9-0 was designed especially for it, or for that very, very heavy kind of rock sound. So he's perfect for that. I don't think any of the others could really pull it off. Richie possibly, but I'm going to stick with just 9-0 for that one. So we move on to pop next, and I put in Hayden doing his Justin Bieber impression there as number one. Saros, great at pop, kind of going towards that kind of disco funk sound, but you can dial him back into a more mainstream pop range. And then Richie also there. I'm going to play you some Richie here at this point, I think.
You light up the night like the moon's up low. Your love feels so right. Every step we take, hand in hand, side by side. Whoa, you're my rhythm of life. Your laughter's like a chorus, echoing through my...
Okay, I'm actually also going to include here a song that I originally did for Kevin, and Kevin really didn't work out in this, and I kind of mixed Kevin and 9-0 together, and it kind of worked. So this is a song by another friend of mine from a forum, Chris Smith, and this is his song "Time to Get Up," and I'm going to play a sample of Kevin singing this. The production is kind of a little off too, so it's a little bit of an unfair comparison, but I think you'll find that Kevin and 9-0 both together work really well. So here's Kevin first on a sample of...
I don't react that well at all to naked ambition. Praise and honors for the non-participants. Praise and honors for the non-participants. Praise and honors for the non-participants.
Okay, and like I said, I improved the production quality on the final version and kind of changed the rhythm just very slightly. But here's 9-0 and Kevin doing this together as a blended voice. We'll get into that at some point. The complicated kind of blend of the different aspects, the aspiration and the main part of the body of the voice. There, here's 9-0 and Kevin doing the same song.
I don't react that well at all to naked ambition. Praise and honors for the non-participants. Praise and honors for the non-participants. Praise and honors for the non-participants.
Okay, so there's that example. Okay, so we're going to move on now to R&B, and again here, I think Hayden just tops Saros here, just for the kind of default voice there, and I think either one of those two would do a great job with an R&B song, and don't have any examples of that today, but I will do some up, and hopefully we can get my agreement there. Soul again, R&B kind of and soul kind of go together really, I think. So it's kind of similar. Saros has a bit more kind of sure-footedness to his voice, I think, that would be a bit more of a appropriate for soul. So those two switched around. Saros first, Hayden second for soul. But again, either one of those two, absolutely fabulous for that genre, and I don't think I'd use any of the others. Maybe I would use Asterion for that kind of black soul sound, and I think I've been dying to do kind of a James Ingram kind of song with Asterion. I haven't gotten to it yet. I've tried a couple of times and haven't really nailed the voice, but I'm sure it's in there somewhere, so at some point I will do that. And so that's soul, and the final one is rock, and I think here we've got a number of voices that would do rock pretty well. 9-0 I'm going to pick first, just for his kind of raw, very raw sound. The next one was actually a bit of a surprise to me, was Saros. When they yell it out, Saros is a great singer for this genre. Richie can really do it. if you can get by his accent, which I think you can, certainly for lead vocals, and then Hayden can come to a similar place as Saros. So I think any of those four would be great for rock. Okay, so that's it. Basically, that's what I wanted to cover today. Like I said, I apologize for not having all the samples ready for all the genres, and hope to have a lot more for you in a later episode. That's it for today, and I'm just going to say, ask you to watch out for the kind of RPM update episode, which will probably be towards the end of February. Once I've done the RPM challenge, I'll kind of work on putting together an edit of some of the songwriting sessions there that I did for that. So thanks for joining me. Hope you got something out of today. If you have any questions or comments or anything, please leave them in the comments, and I will respond to them, and possibly add an update if it's needed there. Thanks again. Have a great day.